It is 10 minutes before the top of the hour. This is the time, as always, that we like to check on Storm Watch and also the tropical update. In a moment, I'll talk about a storm in the western part of the nation and what it might mean for your travels out west, and that's coming up in a moment. But first, a look at the tropics, and if you've been watching throughout the evening, you know that we have now a Category 3 hurricane there in the Caribbean. Let's go ahead and show you first the broad view of this. And that would certainly pinpoint where Hurricane Mitch is located. You can even see the eye clearly visible at this point in time, even on this broad satellite picture. Let's zoom in a little bit closer. Hurricane Mitch, as of the 11 o'clock advisory, centered at 15.7 north, 78.4 west, 190 miles south-southwest of Kingston, Jamaica. Sustained winds of 120 miles per hour, a dramatic increase just throughout this evening alone. It is moving to the north-northwest at 5 miles per hour. The estimated central pressure is now down to 965 millibars. I talked about it being a Category 3 on the Saffir-Simpson scale. That means that it is a major hurricane, and it is capable, if it were to make landfall, of causing extensive damage. Now, with that, I also want to remind you there is a very good possibility this could become a Category 4, capable of producing extreme damage should it make landfall. Let's talk more about where the watches and warnings are in effect at this time. Hurricane warnings in effect for the island of Jamaica, hurricane watches for eastern Cuba. That is all that has been established thus far. We are also very concerned about folks here into western Cuba and the Cayman Islands. Now, this is expected to eventually take more of a northwesterly turn sometime in the day on Sunday. When it makes that turn, will make a very big difference on the impact that it might have on these islands here, obviously. Regardless of how close it comes, or regardless of whether or not it makes landfall anywhere around Jamaica or the Caymans, it's going to bring up some very, very heavy surf here. Very high surf. We could see waves perhaps even up and over 20 feet. That's a possibility for some of these areas. So it's already generating a tremendous amount of surf. And again, regardless of whether or not it has a direct impact on these islands, we already know it's going to bring some very, very high surf. And that is enough to be wary of right there. A hurricane watch, just a reminder, means that conditions are possible, hurricane conditions within that watch area within the next 36 hours. A hurricane warning means that those conditions are expected in the warning area in 24 hours or less. So you need to be thinking in the mode of preparedness if you're watching from Jamaica or even around the Cayman Islands, because this is again going to perhaps be impacting you as we head late into Sunday and on into Monday. So if you're watching from these islands here, some of you are already seeing some of the thunderstorms banding. You need to be thinking about getting that disaster preparedness kit ready, thinking about if you were to evacuate, where would you go, just kind of getting that mindset and monitor the situation very closely. This has kind of increased in aerial coverage, which is also a sign of some strengthening. The center of circulation, very obvious here with the eye that has been pretty evident throughout the evening, and a good outflow in all the quadrants, so it has all these things going for it, that it is likely to continue to strengthen. And as high pressure builds in the upper levels of the atmosphere across the Gulf of Mexico, we'll continue to see a favorable environment for this. So again, if you're watching even from Cuba, that far north, you need to monitor this. If you're watching from Florida, and we don't want to alarm you by any means, and we know with George that you were very prepared, but we want you to monitor this as well. Just something to think about down the road. If you're in Jamaica or around the Caymans, you need to start thinking about taking action just to be prepared. Okay, with that said, let's take you a little further eastward, and we'll take you in and around the islands here. This area here, we've seen some convection kind of flaring up and then fizzling out. Not a whole lot to talk about here. It's been undergoing some shear. So maybe a few showers and a few thunderstorms for some of the islands out here, but nothing that's showing any real signs of development at this point in time. Back into the lower 48, all is quiet for much of the east. We head westward and we've seen some rain in much of California. Some sprinkles even working down toward Ventura County and LA County. Those should be on the light side. There's a look at the latest radar pinpointing where the rain is now. Light for most locations.
There's so much weather and so little time. That's why we love the web. Weather.com. From the Weather Channel, the weather experts. On TV, on PC.
Dust bunnies under the chair? Dust so thick it's everywhere? You need Static Duster, the cleaning sensation that cuts cleaning time in half. Charge Static Duster on any TV screen. The charge is so powerful, dust and dirt leap onto the wand. Clean, delicate collectibles. Great for louver doors and blinds, grids and grills. Clean the screen under the machine. Great for all your electronics. Static Duster slips into shelves, snakes around corners, dust leaps off plants and soak flowers. Now order Static Duster for only $14.95. But wait, you get...
Thanks for joining us here at the Weather Channel. I'm Christina Abernathy, and it's time now for our tropical update. We have a hurricane to tell you about. Let's take a look at our tropical update. Here we go, the big picture out there, watching Hurricane Mitch in the Caribbean. You can see it on the satellite view here, and it is quite powerful, and we're continuing to watch it very closely. Look at the latest coordinates. Centered at 15.9 north, 78.9 west. That puts the center about 195 miles southwest of Kingston, Jamaica. The wind's 125 miles per hour. It's moving to the northwest now at 5 miles per hour, and the pressure at 953 millibars. So a very powerful hurricane, and we do have hurricane watches and warnings in effect. The hurricane warnings are in effect for Jamaica, and the hurricane watches in effect here to the north in Cuba. So certainly interest in these areas, want to keep a real close eye on this, and all interest in the northwestern Caribbean, including the Cayman Islands. We'll want to keep an eye on this too. Now again, we have the watches and warnings in effect. A quick review of the definitions of a hurricane watch and warning. A hurricane watch means hurricane conditions are possible in the watch area within the next 36 hours. A hurricane warning means hurricane conditions are expected in the warning area in 24 hours or less. So again, just to keep you updated on that, and take a look at our satellite view here. Certainly very impressive. You can clearly see where the eye is here, and again, here's Jamaica and the Cayman Islands off to the north and to the west. So all interest in this area will want to keep a real close eye on what's going on here with Hurricane Mitch. No doubt some very high surf is going to be a problem in these areas, and eventually perhaps the rain and the wind. So you'll want to monitor the situation very carefully. We'll continue to keep you updated and continue to keep a close eye on Hurricane Mitch. You can see this is where it stands right now. As far as the eventual track, again, we'll have to keep a real close eye on it, and we'll keep you posted. As we head out into the Atlantic, not a whole lot of interest here, nothing showing any immediate signs of getting organized. But as we head over into the Pacific, we have a tropical storm here, Tropical Storm Lester, which is, you can see the latest coordinates here, centered at 16.4 north, 113.4 west. Maximum sustained winds 45 miles per hour, moving to the northwest at 10. The pressure 1,000 millibars, and there is your satellite view. Have to apologize, a bit of a jump in it there, but again, we'll continue to watch this as well as Babs, which is out here. It's just moved through the Philippines actually, and eventually is expected to make landfall somewhere east of Hong Kong as a tropical storm. So watch out certainly in those areas, and Taiwan certainly. But again, it has moved through the Philippine Islands. So that's the latest on the tropics. Let's head a little closer to home and see what's going on in the U.S. And things really very tranquil here. A few showers here, very scattered. Then to the west, this is where things get a little more active. We've got a storm system here providing you with wet weather and providing you with snow. So watch out for wintry precipitation here, some wet weather, some slippery roadways out there, and again, watch out through the Dakotas on into Minnesota, maybe into eastern Iowa. Parts of Wisconsin and Illinois could get in on some of the wet weather too, so not a real widespread rain event here, but you could see a few showers. The more widespread rain is going to be in the west, where you could also see some windy conditions, winds over 30 miles per hour, a possibility. Those low temperatures will be pretty cool in the west and actually in the east overnight. A lot of folks dropping down into the 30s and 40s. And here's what we're watching through the day tomorrow. Nice day for most of the east. We'll watch this front though, and we'll watch our system in the west. Rain here, a bit of rain and some snow with our area of low pressure in the southwest. And those snow levels about 5,500 feet, so above that you could pick up a bit of wintry precipitation. And here are those high temperatures on Sunday. Stay tuned. Your local forecast is next.
Dust bunnies under the chair, dust so thick it's everywhere? You need Static Duster, the cleaning sensation that cuts cleaning time in half. Charge Static Duster on any TV screen. The charge is so powerful, dust and dirt leap onto the wand. Clean, delicate collectibles. Great for louver doors and blinds, grids and grills. Clean the screen under the machine. Great for all your electronics. Static Duster slips into shelves, snakes around corners, dust leaps off plants and soak flowers. Now order Static Duster for only $14.95. But wait, you get a second Static Duster with extension handle. It stretches to reach moldings and bends for hard-to-reach places. As a bonus, you get the Tiny Duster. The complete kit only $14.95, but we're not through yet.
Brought to you by Home Depot. I'm meteorologist Mark Mancuso. We'll be investigating what's happening both stateside and in the tropics, from the Atlantic right into the Pacific. First things first, and the major concern continues to be Hurricane Mitch in the Gulf, not in the Gulf, but in the Caribbean. And here we see it here on our big picture. You can see the eye on Mitch right there, and notice the movement just kind of easing its way off to the west-northwest. This is Cuba, here's South Florida, and here you can see Jamaica, and right in here the Cayman Islands, and off to the west Nicaragua, Honduras, Belize, and the Yucatan. And it looks like a motion off to the west-northwest. A slow one is expected here in the next 24 to 48 hours, so residents in the western Caribbean, I'm going to keep close tabs on the system in through here. Let's give you the latest from the Hurricane Center. Hurricane hunters have been investigating here, and overnight they did find a dramatic drop-off in the pressure here, down to 949 millibars. So our hurricane is sitting over some very warm waters here in the western Caribbean. Water temperatures are in the 80s. Above this, there's a nice high pressure aloft, so systems are go for intensification. We've seen plenty of that. Movement is west-northwest at 7. This graphic has a misprint on it, and that's very important here. Movement is west-northwesterly, 295 degrees at 7 miles per hour. Winds 125 miles per hour. So this is a major hurricane here, capable of quite a bit of damage. Closest land area is on the island of Jamaica, where a lot of preparations are underway. And if you're plotting at home, 16.0 north to 79.2 west. With a close proximity to Jamaica, we do have hurricane warnings in effect here. Farther north over eastern Cuba, we do have hurricane watches. And what does that mean? Well, just a reminder, a hurricane watch means hurricane conditions are possible in the watch area in the next 36 hours. And a hurricane warning means hurricane conditions are expected in the warning area in 24 hours or less. So the closest place to the hurricane is Jamaica, so that's why the hurricane warnings have been issued here. But here you can see the island of Jamaica right here. And on the colorized satellite picture, you can see occasionally some oranges showing up and through here. These are the colder cloud tops, probably where you have some of the heavier precipitation. So there's been some heavy showers coming on in through here in Jamaica and some squalls. But the main action with the hurricane is farther south. Here's the eye of the storm right here, right near the center of circulation. This is where you have your 125 mile an hour winds, right in a small area here, right inside my hand. Right here, this is where you have your hurricane force winds and tropical storm force winds. And once you get farther out, well, you get tropical storm force winds in the squalls. Here you can see Honduras. Here's Belize, and this is the Yucatan, where there have been some showers in through here. And lastly in the picture, that little dot right there, those are the Cayman Islands. This morning also seen as an easterly breeze here at about 15 miles per hour. So this is where the action is, and as we show you the wind profile, you can see that all the tropical storm force winds are away from Jamaica, hurricane force winds in a small area right near the center, and this is all moving off towards the west-northwest. So it looks like Jamaica may be spared in the near term anyway, the high winds with the system, but there'll be a lot of wind-driven waves, so the seas will all be churned up, so there'll be quite a bit of beach erosion and the potential for very heavy rains here at the very least. So that's why we are concerned. After that, what happens to Mitch? Well, at the present time, there's a high pressure stretched out from the Gulf of Mexico into the northern Caribbean. That has been keeping Mitch down in this position, just locked here. So it's just been kind of drifting its way off towards the west-northwest. Further movements here, rather uncertain. One thing we can tell you, this will be a slow mover this week. And it does look like the most probable scenario would be for this to kind of drift its way off towards the west-northwest over the next couple of days. So it's a powerful hurricane, it's a slow mover, and the future down the road is uncertain. You know, we'll head its way towards the Yucatan, or we'll eventually try to turn towards the north, or we'll just keep moving west. This is very early in the ball game, and it's a slow mover, so we'll just have to watch it. Now, to get you out here into the farther Atlantic, just a little disturbed weather here in the Pacific. Lester, really not much of a factor, and looks like some of its moisture could eventually be pulled up into northwest Mexico.
Each time a disturbance comes off the coast of Africa, we follow that until it develops into a storm or to whatever it does. That way you're prepared and you're safe, out of harm's way.
This program was sponsored by the Home Depot.
Professional builders, people who make a living with their tools, prefer to buy their tools at the Home Depot more than any other store in America. And whether it's the selection, the quality brands we offer, or our guaranteed commitment to the lowest prices, we think it's a pretty powerful argument for why you should shop here too. The Home Depot, where people who know their stuff buy their stuff.
Introducing the first ever daily protein remover for soft contact lenses. Opti-Free Super Cleanse. It keeps your lenses like new longer. Call and try it. Free.
Hello? A free sample? Free is good if the product is great. So what would be great is some cold hard facts, right?
Fact. People who use Super Cleanse every day for 6 months said their soft contact lenses felt as comfortable as a pair less than a week old.
Contacts I start wearing in winter.
Thanks for joining us for Storm Watch. I'm meteorologist Mark Mancuso. A lot of activity in the tropics, so let's start you off by taking a look at our headline story, and that is Hurricane Mitch, which is sitting in the southwestern Caribbean there. On the big picture here, you can see its relationship to the U.S. It's very far away from the U.S., but in the western Caribbean, we're looking at problems for Jamaica, possible problems for the Caymans, and over here around Honduras and Belize and the Yucatan. Certainly could be affected by the system down the road. As we take a look at the particulars as of 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time from the Hurricane Center, 16.3 north, 79.8 west. That's where we find our center of our hurricane. That's about 230 miles off to the west-southwest of Kingston, Jamaica. And it's good to 225 miles or so off to the southeast of the Cayman Islands. Movement west-northwesterly at 7 miles per hour. Pressure continues to fall. Latest reconnaissance run through the plane there, run through the storm, showed pressure is now down to 942 millibars. So with winds of 130 miles per hour and a pressure of 942 millibars, this is now being classified as a Category 4 on the Safford-Simpson scale. This storm is capable of an extreme amount of damage. As we take a look at the current warnings and watches, hurricane warnings are in effect for Jamaica, hurricane watches for eastern Cuba and the Cayman Islands. These hurricane watches in the Cayman Islands may be upgraded to hurricane warnings later today. And in case you are not familiar with watches and warnings, a hurricane watch means hurricane conditions are possible in the watch area during the next 36 hours. And a hurricane warning means hurricane conditions are expected in the warning area in 24 hours or less. As you can see on this visible satellite picture, the center of the storm, the eye, has made its closest approach to Jamaica. It is now pulling more off to the west-northwest. But some of these outer rain bands have affected Jamaica, the Kingston area, with winds up to 50 miles per hour this morning. And we have seen some bursts of heavy rains. There's been several inches of rain in through here, so that could make for mudslides. Right now, though, let's get you a real close view of our hurricane. And as I back off the picture, there you can see the eye, quite an impressive looking storm. This is a powerhouse, and right near that eye, this is where we had those winds of over 120 to almost 130 miles per hour. Let's show you an infrared satellite picture now, and as we check that out for you, here again you can see Jamaica, colder cloud tops, some of the heavier rain bands here. The Caymans are off to the northwest here, and we really don't see any significant weather there right now, but some of these outer rain bands could eventually move in that direction. Here's Honduras, and here's the center of our storm moving off towards the west-northwest, so it would appear that these areas would be threatened in the next 24, 48, 72 hours as a general west-northwesterly motion is expected with this powerful hurricane. Here's a look at the tropical storm force winds. They extend out about 145 miles from the center of the storm. Hurricane force winds out about 45 miles from the center of the storm, and right near the eye wall, that's where you find the extreme winds, 115 miles per hour or greater. Now, what happens to this down the road? Well, at the present time, there's a ridge off to the north and northwest of the hurricane that has been blocking it from moving northward, and it has forced it more on this west-northwesterly track. All indications are this will continue to move west-northwesterly over the next 48 to 72 hours. So that would certainly threaten the western Caribbean countries here. So that will be the greatest concern. But in the near term, Jamaica will see bursts of heavy rains and high winds, and the Caymans could be affected with that later today and into tonight. In the Pacific, Lester, still a tropical storm hanging on there, winds 45 miles per hour, moving off towards the northwest. That could curl more towards the north, spread some moisture here into the Gulf of California. While in the far east, we are looking at Typhoon Babs, winds 80, 85 miles per hour here. This moved through the Philippines with 130 deaths, thousands homeless. This is now forecast to make landfall just east of Hong Kong, currently kind of windy and rainy.
Tropical weather systems are affected by so many variables.
We constantly monitor the situation.
If someone is safer by watching the Weather Channel, that's what it's all about.
I wouldn't call Charlie's parents overprotective, but maybe Charlie would.
Well, if one pad's good, two pads are even better. Ouch!
His parents just want to make sure he's on the go safely.
Don't forget to buckle up.
So it figures they'd get a Ford Taurus.
Does he have enough pads on?
The only sedan starting under $20,000 to earn a 5-star government front crash test rating.
Be careful!
I wouldn't say they're overprotective.
Other way! Other way!
They're just parents. Ford Taurus, built to last.
Sinus pain, so much pressure, I just can't focus.
Mom, you okay?
Clear the pain with new Tavist Sinus Gel Caps. Unlike extra-strength Tylenol, it unclogs the congestion that may cause the sinus pain. Be clear-headed, clear through your day with new Tavist Sinus Gel Caps.
Betty Crocker knows how to make them.
Well, things are busy tonight in the tropics, as you may or may not know, and of course we have a storm in the west that will keep you engulfed in clouds and even some rain and snow for the next couple of days. Let's go ahead and check things out as we look at our tropical update, first order of business tonight on the Storm Watch. And of course, looking at you with that perfect symmetric eye is that hurricane we call Mitch right here. It continues to move on off toward the west-northwest, and I'll preface our discussion about Mitch with this. Last night, the pressure with Mitch was 973 millibars at approximately this time. Right now, at best guess, or at least the last report from the hurricane hunters, it's 924 millibars. That's a 50 millibar drop just about in 24 hours, and that's incredible deepening. If you remember Opal in October of '95, when we saw that tremendous fall here, where it got down even below 920 millibars, believe it or not, that's the kind of deepening that Mitch has undergone. The good news is that we don't have a big trough in the west coming to scoop it up like we did with Opal. At least, not yet. So we're going to have to be patient with this. Here's your advisory from the Hurricane Center as of 4 o'clock. 16.6 north, 80.7 west, 190 miles south-southeast of Grand Cayman Island. Winds at 150, so it's only 5 miles away from being a Category 5 hurricane. It's moving west-northwest at 8. Pressure from the Hurricane Hunter aircraft at 924 millibars. Now, what we have is some good news. The hurricane warnings for the island of Jamaica have been dropped, even though just last hour they had their strongest wind that I've seen today, 35 knots and a heavy rain shower with a gust at Kingston. And you can see here the watches are still up from the Cayman Islands across Cuba. Now, there is some speculation that these may be discontinued later on tonight, but we still have the watches out for the Cayman Islands, so please keep that in mind. Satellite picture is incredibly impressive. We take a look at the infrared imagery. You can see the coldest cloud tops here in red, and what we saw today is a void of this deeper red on the east side. But all of a sudden during the afternoon it started to fill in all the way around. We could tell that it was deepening, and it kind of looks like it's trying to do that again. So this thing is just wanting to bomb itself out, and no doubt that appears so. But the good news is it's sitting over here in the middle of the Western Caribbean and not really bothering too many people. And if it wants to bomb out here, there could not be a better place for it to do so. So let's hope that it does just that. You can see the squally weather over Jamaica tonight, and you can see that we don't have much left with that little low-level swirl, which is down there in the Bay of Campeche. There's been some pretty ugly weather today around Puerto Rico. They had special marine warnings out on the northern side of the island. They had some pretty heavy thunderstorms develop right over the central mountains, and those moved right down toward Ponce and weakened rapidly. But other than that, we're pretty much void of anything as we take you across the rest of the Atlantic, which would seem so this time of the year. 17.5 north, 115.0 west. That's where they put the center of circulation with Tropical Storm Lester. It's moving northwest at 7, continues to see a drop in the wind field, 40 miles an hour, and the pressure also estimate is going up. There it is at 1,003. And as the satellite goes into motion, I don't know why it stopped, but it did. You can see how we're getting these showers and thunderstorms in and around the center of circulation. Hopefully that doesn't mean my computer has gone kapooey. Anyway, Babs, since this thing's taking its own sweet time, continues to move. There it goes. You can see how we've lost a lot of the deep convection here south of Baja. The forecast is to take it up and start to curve it onto the northeast, but at this point it will continue to weaken and even dissipate. The storms with this are actually north and east of the center. Here's Babs sitting there at 90 miles an hour. That's Hong Kong right there. The forecast now starting to move it again, sticks it at 90 miles an hour, then starts to weaken it as it comes on shore. But the slow movement, at least initially, could mean some very, very heavy rains. Over 130 dead, by the way, with this thing across the southern Philippines. Unbelievable. High pressure across the east. You see this? Get used to it, because you're going to see this all week. It's not going anywhere. The low pressure to the north will just slip to the southeast almost as an unnoticed front. It'll be mostly a dry front, but it's going to bring another polar high down and just reinforce this one. The storm in the west continues to crank up tonight with rain showers and thunderstorms, and there have been some reports of 1-inch diameter hail north of Phoenix. We'll update you next.
Snow in parts of California is a sign of things to come. We'll show you where cool temperatures are on tap next on Weather Center after your local forecast.
Hey, Johnny, there's a new chunky soup, Sweetie Pie. Hey, Chunky's. Did you just call me Sweetie Pie? Oh, no. Sweaty Guy. There's a new chunky soup, Sweaty Guy. Chunky baked potato with cheddar and bacon bits. A hearty soup loaded with big chunks of baked potato to fill my little Johnny bear, right?
Mom?
Gotta make sure you're eating good.
How long you been wearing this?
Since the half.
Oh.
New Campbell's Chunky Baked Potato Soups.
They fill you up.
Money Week is next on CNN, and later on The World Today, how one group of youngsters is honoring John Glenn, soon to return to space. The first American to orbit the Earth is to go back into space with a shuttle launch on Thursday. CNN will provide extensive coverage of that flight.
A South African soccer